Well, hello everyone. I hope and pray that you're doing well. It's raining today. I'm hunkered down in my truck because I'm in Terrace and I've never seen rain before. But we had great weather this weekend, I think, for the riverboat days. You can see behind me the potato chip tent, and I'm at George Little Park. I've always loved BC Day weekend around here in Terrace. So much going on during the weekend, riverboat days. We've got church in the park, concerts in the park. There's beach blast volleyball, soccer, and basketball, and softball. And you got the Skeena Salmon Art Show, parade, show and shine, farmers market right here. I mean, I even got out to the Model Railroad Club this year for the first time in like 10 years just to check it out. I admit I'll miss the fireworks this year, but it's just a great way to showcase Terrace. I mean, sometimes it can be pretty easy to note the things that Terrace doesn't have, right? The list is pretty long, right? We lack a lot of big city amenities, and we can get down on what we don't have. But what happens if our perspective shifts a bit? And we start to list the things that we do have, right? Riverboat Days weekend highlights just this whole smorgasbord of opportunities. There's this passage in Jeremiah 29, and the passage often gets badly interpreted. You maybe know the passage, I know the plans that I have for you, and then people personalize that, and that's not such a bad thing, I guess, but context is important. And shortly before that passage in Jeremiah 29, the context is Israel in exile in Babylon. And God, through Jeremiah, encourages his people. He says he encourages them to invest in the city that God has placed them in. And so at verse 7, we read, "Also, seek the peace and the prosperity of the city to which I have carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you too will prosper." Stuart McLean had an iconic radio show on CBC Radio, and I think he captured in many ways the essence of Canadian life through some pretty funny stories, relatable stories. And I appreciate that he would come at the beginning of his work week. He'd come to a city at the beginning of the week, and he'd hang out at the local scene, the local coffee shops, and dive into community life. And at the end of the week, he'd record his show. And he would always tell these stories about the city which he was visiting. And I remember some of the poignant stories that he told about Terrace, the time he visited here. And McLean also had these recurring stories, right, revolving around Dave and his record store called the Vinyl Cafe. And I don't know if you remember, but the motto of this fictitious Vinyl Cafe was, "We may not be big, but we're small." And I've often quoted that line for the city of Terrace, but also for our church, right? We may not be big, but we're small. And I appreciate that McLean invested himself in the small towns that he visited, and his stories announced the blessings of small town life. Now, he may not have used the language of Jeremiah, but McLean still preached. He prophesied, "Seek the peace and prosperity of the city that God has placed you in. In its well-being is your well-being." I love how there are many folks from our church community, from our church family, who are involved in just about every one of those Riverboat Day activities that I listed earlier. Right? Passionate for our city, making a difference, investing in the city that God has placed us. The peace of Christ be with you all.